Spiritus Domini, replevit fabem terram. Alleluia. Et quod continet omnia scientiam habet vocis. Alleluia, alleluia, alleluia. Exultat Deus et dissipetur inimicitius, et fugiat viodero Deum apacius. Gloria Patri et Filium et Spiritui Sancto, sicut erat in principio et nunc et semper, et in saecula saeculorum. Amen. Spiritus Domini, replevit fabem terram. Alleluia. Et quod continet omnia scientiam habet vocis. Alleluia, alleluia, alleluia. The Spirit of the Lord has filled the whole earth. The Blessed Trinity is fire. The Blessed Trinity is a circuit. The Blessed Trinity is an all-encompassing globe of love that draws all into its bosom. And in that context, the Spirit is what is sent to all the earth to draw in these bits of what should be participation of divine life, human souls sparked once on high, for each soul was ignited by that command, be, but return unto me. And so it is that on this side of life, our role is to be precisely in tune with the Spirit of the Lord that fills the whole earth, to be vibrant and to be healing, to be instruments of drawing and not repelling, and also to be aware that He is at work more than we think. There is a correlation between warmth in the heart and access unto grace. Coldness, hardness, bitterness repels the work of the Spirit, as does emission of volume and noise. Warmth and receptive attitudes of humbleness and gentleness draw the Spirit of our God, and we need to be in that mode as we go through life. Each nation has its culture, and the Spirit works within that culture. In Oriental cultures, quite often there is less contamination with regard to noise, activism, and a stillness, even physical, favours that entry of the Spirit. People in Asiatic countries are more able, quite often, to be still for long periods. God is not absent from that stillness, but wanting therein to enter in. We are hugely contaminated and damaged in the Western world. But in the Western world there is a richness too, and that richness is always in anything coming from the Christian gospel. we cannot deny formally and utterly and presumptuously and humanly that God is free to act within incomplete parcels of Christian life. Why? Because he has a right to his creatures and wants their salvation, so he will work there where there is even one chink of openness. Add to that the absence of the fullness of truth in a land, then that will be the only place where he will find access to Christian souls. So he's bound to be at work. Growing up, I would listen to what those who had been in Wales long before us had known and heard, experienced and touched, and what had moved in their heart. And one cannot objectively deny that the Spirit of our God was at work. Indeed, more went on in that very Protestant land of Wales from the 1700s onwards than actually we think. It was massively favoured by the instinct of the Welsh to create beauty with their voice. It was favoured also by the ancient art of speaking well in public. It was influenced also by the expansive and expressive nature of the Welsh heart and soul, which then would be easily poured out in spontaneous prayer, meant and felt. It was also favoured by the spontaneous participation of people in what goes on, what we call feeding, porthi in Welsh. And so it is that much would happen which would actually even console on the human level. And in a time when there was little consolation but much poverty, people would walk miles to have access to it. And out of that has come a plethora of hymns and books, the value of which cannot be denied, either on the literary level or on the spiritual level. A baggage. Now, all we can do is humbly plead that the Spirit will carry on moving in hearts, for hearts are the essence of our ministry. But having said that, even though there were even physical phenomena like the moving lights, we cannot deny either that the positive will of God is that there should be a sacramental Christianity here on earth. We cannot say that if God is free to bless, that he does not want any more the freedom to bless fully. For if we have the fullness of truth and life, we need also the fullness of its expression, and we need to vivify what we have. It is not a question of creating new things or spectacular things, gimmicky things or noisy things, but of living fully and vibrating with what we have in our midst. The ancient chants of our own heritage still gently plead for an outpouring. The Spirit of our God is not changed. He is ever new and ever old. But one factor is constant. He needs openness. He needs gentleness and sincerity. And his passage is greatly favoured by care of beauty, where on earth we somehow reproduce the angel's passage.